Hello and welcome to Jank It Up Fuzzball, episode 14. I'm your host Brian, aka Jank Rao. How's it been? How has your Star Wars Destiny experience gone the last couple of weeks? I am here to report on some of my games and thoughts. I finally got to sit down with Greg and play Allies of Necessity, and that was a fun evening. And I even played some Palpatine, which was great. So I'm going to report on both of those today, give you my thoughts on the draft set, and also just some decks I've been toying around with. And I want to say thanks again to Greg. He was my co-host or my guest. I'm not sure which word to use there, but he was my guest last episode. That was super fun, and I promise to have Greg on in the near future. It's great to have someone that I can play with regularly, and that's Greg. And so we're always talking shop when we play. It was nice to have him come in and talk about the game with some microphones in front of us. And I guarantee you he'll come back. But for now, today, you get my side of the story, which is may or may not be different than his side of the story, but I promise to talk about his highlights as well as my own. I'm excited to talk a little bit of Destiny today, and I wanted to just, perhaps you're new to Jank It Up Fuzzball, I just want to talk a little bit. I've been listening to a lot of Destiny this week, which is awesome because I'm a college professor and school is kind of winding down, and so I've just had more time besides just my commute to kind of listen in on all of these wonderful Star Wars Destiny content creators, and they're really great. I love, I support many of them through Patreons and whatnot. I just enjoy the conversation. Most of them are geared towards competitive Destiny. They're geared towards the competitive scene, and this is not that podcast. So if you're here, I hope you're here because you love the game and you want just a casual take on it, and it's going to be my personal take. It's my kind of personal journey with the game. I'm a casual player. I'm probably not going to go to too many major competitive events because, I just don't see myself doing well in those. But I love the game. I love playing with my son. I love playing with Greg. And I love trying to just work with the cards you have, right? So I try to limit my spending to sealed product and try to see what I can put together. And that idea dovetails really nicely into playing a sealed event with Greg, where we took our box of Convergence. We finally cracked it open. We each grabbed 9 packs. The math over the course of a box between 2 people just worked better because you can divide 36 packs 4 ways pretty easily. So Greg and I did half the box a couple of weekends ago. We each pulled 9 packs. We cracked those packs. And then we, using Allies of Necessity, we built our decks, our team, and then we had a best 2 out of 3. Just like with Across the Galaxy, we don't keep the legendaries we pull. Those are going to be set off to the side. And after we finish the box, we'll have 6 legendaries. And then whoever won the first night will get first choice. And whoever wins the second round, when we crack the second half of the box, will get second choice. And then we'll alternate therein. So, it's fun. I did play in a sealed box tournament, which is pretty intense. And Greg and I, we each jumped on the $25 Legacies boxes on Amazon a while back. So we're going to do a sealed box tournament of Legacies, which will be a lot of fun down the road. But for now, I want to talk a little bit about the Allies of Necessity sealed event we had and my thoughts on the new draft kit. It's different. Obviously, if you've had a chance to play with it, it's different than Rivals. I just think it runs slower. That's my general opinion. There are fewer cards, I think, that are available to you in the game. Obviously, the plots, you're going to use one of those at the most, so that takes 3 out. There's 2 battlefields, so you might use one of those, but you might not. And then you have you have 4 characters, and then you have just a limited number of cards. It just seems like there's less choice than last time. That's not to say I don't like it. I love the power actions of the characters. I thought that was really good and welcoming, and I can see there's probably a handful of cards that will actually see constructed play outside of draft events, which I think is more so than what we saw in Rivals. So I'm excited for it. Obviously, it's new cards, it's new product. I think that's exciting, but it's just slower, I think, than Rivals, and it just kind of slows those games down even more. Again, not to say I didn't have fun, because I did, but it was interesting to see a noticeable difference, at least in how I played it, between Rivals and Allies of Necessity. So what did I crack? I had 9 packs, I mentioned, and I'm going to tell you very quickly what I cracked. I pulled 5 yellow. I'm just talking about dice cards right now. 5 yellow dice cards, 2 blue, and 2 red. So of my 9, I actually pulled 5 characters, which is not ideal. So my 5 characters, I had the red Naboo Palace Guard. So that was useful. I had a blue character that was, I always want to say Reluctant Jedi, but that's totally not true. Vigilant Jedi. And then I had 3 yellow characters. I had Maz, I had Enfys Nest Marauder, and I had Dengar. So again, in terms of building a team using the Allies of Necessity, you really don't want to see that many players. By contrast, Greg and his 9 packs only pulled 2 characters. So that's not necessarily ideal either. However, the 2 characters he pulled are characters that he will certainly use outside of the event, because he pulled a First Order Stormtrooper and he had none of those from the Awakenings block. So that was super exciting. I know that's going to be partnered up with his Darth Vader Terror to Behold probably in a matter of weeks. And he also pulled Sentinel Messenger, which is such an important support card from Convergence. So I was super happy for him to get those cards. Coming back to me, I decided to use the Enfys Nest Marauder as my yellow character, partnering that character with Dooku and Finn Rao. And that's still 30 points, and it gave me Rainbow. So I decided to do that. My other dice cards, I had 4 other dice cards. I had Sorsu Training, which is a blue neutral upgrade. I had Imperial Officer, which is a red villain support. I had Moxie, which is a yellow hero upgrade. And I did pull a legendary, Chewbacca's Blaster. It's not a legendary I have, and so I was super excited to see that. I actually pulled a second legendary, but kind of our gentleman's agreement is that we don't want one player to have multiple legendaries if the other person doesn't have any. And so I traded, what I pulled was Mega Blaster Troopers. That was my second legendary that I pulled. And so I basically handed that card off to Greg, and I got the rare from his last cracked pack, which was Moxie. Now, again, we're not keeping the legendaries we crack. We keep all the other cards, but the legendaries will go into a pool at the end of the box, and then we will draft from those. So it's not like I just gave him Mega Blaster Troopers. But so in half the box, we saw 2 legendaries. That means that there are 4 more legendaries, or at least there should be, in the second half of the box. And we'll be drafting through that hopefully pretty soon. So how'd the games go? Well, he went with Dooku, Outer Rim Outlaw, First Order Stormtrooper, and that gave him enough for a plot. And so he used Astrogation, which is the blue plot from Allies of Necessity. After you play an upgrade, you may exhaust this plot and spot a blue character to discard the top card of a deck. So using Dooku and getting Dooku's lightsaber on him, there's some discard involved. And then obviously with that plot, there's more discard involved. And so it can be a tough go. The very first match went really well for me. I remember that I rolled out the Marauder and got the 2 resources for 1 resource. So I paid that to get 2 resources. It bumped me up to 3. And then I had drawn into, or from the opening hand, I had Chewie's Blaster. So I was able to, very early in round 1, put down Chewie's Blaster on Finn Rao. I dealt Finn Rao a damage and rolled it into the pool. And I was pretty much off to the races. And I won the first game relatively easily. I'm sure if Greg was here, he would agree with that. And he was pretty frustrated about how it went. And I was feeling great because I won the first game. I was 1 win away from securing the first pick. And I knew that there's a Mega Blaster Troopers for the taking, right? I don't know what the other 4 legendaries are, but a Mega Blaster Troopers is awesome. And Chewie's Blaster, also awesome. 2 legendaries I don't have. So either way, I need to get that second win. If you've ever played a sealed or a draft event, you know, and again, I'm speaking to the casual player here, but you can always exchange cards. You can kind of sideboard out from whatever is left in your pool. So you can change characters, you can change cards. We swapped out a few cards each, but we kept our character lineup. So he still ran the 3 and I still ran the 3. And we went into it as a second game. And it was very different, right? I did eventually get Chewie's Blaster out, but it was a much longer game. There was just more mitigation and poor rolling. And you can imagine both of us have sniper teams out. Both of us have hired muscle out. All these things usually cost money that we don't have. So, there's a lot of, because you're not able to kind of blast that damage out unless you have the resources to do it, it just slows things down. And eventually it got to the point where we were both basically out of cards. And in one the last round, I should say, or close to the last round, I drew the remaining bits of my cards, and he drew all but one card. So he had one card left in his deck. And then we played through this really long round, and he had made me discard, and so I was out of cards. And so my thinking here was that if we both are out of cards and our decks are empty, whoever has the battlefield wins. And so I probably couldn't have done anything about it anyway, but I probably prematurely claimed because I'm going to blame beer because it's easy to blame that. But I just didn't see, with all the game state and all the stuff, I just didn't appreciate that he had one card left in his deck. And so I claimed, he said, that's fine. And then he won because he had a card left and I had nothing. So again, I'm not saying it was a misplay, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game because he just, as long as that card stayed on his deck, I couldn't get rid of it. And that was it. So as happy as I was after the first game, we were knotted up at one apiece, and I was already having flashbacks to the last time we did this, and I let a one-game lead slip away. So I was trying not to be tilted, but it was difficult. We go into the third game. I think we changed out a few cards in our deck, same character lineup, and it was intense. It really boiled down at the very end to I had Finral and 2 health left, and he had Outer Rim Outlaw and 2 health left. And he had 3 upgrades on Outer Rim Outlaw, or at least 2 upgrades, and maybe I slapped a downgrade on him. I know he had Infest Nest, Electro Ripper, and had been slapping me upside the head with that a couple of times in the game already. So he was dealing a lot of damage, just a whole lot of damage, and I was hurting. But I had claimed the battlefield, and I drew into a Shot Caller, which I pulled in one of my 9-packs. And so I thought, you know what? Outer Rim Outlaw's at 2 health. If I put this on him and he activates, that's going to knock him down to 1. And I just didn't think he would do it. Now, he had supports out. He had Sniper Team and some other things out. So I thought if I did that, maybe he would still try to get some dice in the pool. But I was really hoping to slow down the Outer Rim Outlaw because he just had too many weapons on him. So I did that. I Shot Caller the Outer Rim Outlaw. Kind of to my surprise, Greg went ahead and activated him to take the 1. And again, just so many new cards and being not familiar with it. Once he did that, knocked him down to 1 health. And then I simply power action Finral, playing a red card to deal 1 indirect. And that finished him off. So would Greg have done that same thing had he realized what was coming? Probably not. But we kind of talked about it in the days since, and I really think it was probably going to end that way no matter what. I was always trying to think, well, is there a scenario where he gets out of that? And we just determined that there probably wasn't. So unfortunate loss for Greg. Super exciting for me because I won the night. This guarantees that I will get the first pick in Legendaries. Last set, when we did Across the Galaxy, he got not just the first pick, but he got the first 2 picks. And so he took a Vader and he took Qui-Gon's lightsaber with his first 2 picks. So this puts me on top. This guarantees that I can get either a Mega Blaster Troopers or a Chewie's Blaster, should I want it. But there's 4 more Legendaries to go, and I'm excited to see what those may be. And I'm not sure when we're going to schedule the second half of this, but feels good. I gotta say, it feels good knowing that we have that. I want to touch one more thing on this format. Just because mathematically it's easy to do that. It's easy to just say, hey, here are 9 packs and here are 9 packs. I'm starting to get curious if we did an actual draft, like a 2-person draft, but how awkward would that be where you do 6 packs, you open 3 at a time, you pull a card and you pass it back, and then you go back and forth, back and forth. We've done a couple of 4-person drafts and that's easy enough, but I'm just curious, would it have avoided the situation where I had too many characters and he had not enough characters? I'm not sure. Mathematically, you're leaving some packs in the box, and I think we like the idea of just cleanly divvying up all the packs. And I'm happy to do the sealed, but I'm just curious if you've done a 2-person draft where you actually pick a card, pass it, pick a card, pass it. How did it go? How do you think it went? Let me know. I'd appreciate that. jankitupfuzzball@gmail.com, or you can find me on social media on Twitter, jankitup, or on Facebook. Just search for jankitupfuzzball. All right, and that's about it. I think my general thoughts are there's some really awesome cards in Allies of Necessity. I know Dooku, his lightsaber, Hired Muscle. Those are obviously really popular already. I like playing sealed, and I've mentioned this before, but I like the idea of showing up to play and not having to construct anything, not having to build anything. Just bring your draft set, bring your sleeves, and then just go at it. What do you get? Put something together and play through it. Maybe that's because I'm not that great at building a deck. I think I have more success oftentimes, not every time, but sometimes I have more success in a sealed format or a limited format as opposed to kind of the wide open constructed. And then Greg returned the next weekend. He didn't have enough, or he wanted to redeem himself. Just kidding. I mean, we enjoyed playing, and so he came back the next weekend for some constructed, and he had a new deck, and I had a revised deck, and then I brought out Palpatine. So I had cracked Palpatine in the box tournament, but I hadn't played him yet, so I was excited to get him out. So a couple of interesting things I want to talk about. The first couple of matches we played, I had my Grievous Armored Reinforcement deck. So that's Elite Grievous with 1 Sentinel Messenger and 1 Super Battle Droid and Armored Reinforcement. And I have 2 vehicles in the deck. I have the Defoliator tank from the starter set, and I have a Hailfire Droid tank. So depending on my opponent, if he's running a bunch of droids, then I'll just pull out the droid tank instead of the Defoliator. But if he's running not a bunch of droids, then I'll pull out the Defoliator and try to spray damage across the board. He came out with a 5-die start. He had Elite Cody, Elite Satine, and 1 Clone Trooper. So this is a brand new deck to me. I wasn't sure what was going on. Greg is not known for playing vehicles, and as he admitted to, basically every vehicle he owns is in this deck. But it was fun. The first game out, I was able to get Defoliator tank out, and I think I either naturally rolled a special or I was able to focus into a special, and that deals a lot of damage across the board, and that knocked him down pretty hard. And, what I love about Super Battle Droid is that he has a lot of health, but also you can turn droid character dice. So he can fix his own die. He can also fix Sentinel Messenger's die. And, of course, Grievous can reroll any droid die as a power action. So that is also useful. I won the first game. I felt really good about it, right? I was just blew through, and I don't remember who I knocked off first, but I felt really, really good. I had some swagger after that first game. It was pretty great. Second game started much the same way. I was able to get down a Defoliator tank, again, pretty early, must have been round 1. And then I was able to start modding it up. I have 2 dorsal turrets in the deck, so I found one, and I played that and rolled the die in. And then Greg, to his credit, played Strategic Planning, which is a 1-cost red event, hero event, that says ready a support that has no mods or exhaust a support. So for 1 cost, he basically exhausted my Defoliator tank with a dorsal turret on it. So I was kind of like, okay, that's pretty sad, but that's a great play by Greg. And then, I had to go about trying to deal damage with my characters, and that's a little harder, right? Because I think I have a few upgrades, a few weapon upgrades, but I'm also just playing a lot of events, trying to maximize damage and make things happen. What was funny is, like, a subsequent round, I pulled my second dorsal turret, and so I played that early. So now I had a Defoliator tank with 2 dorsal turrets. And when you play the dorsal turret, I rolled the die in the pool, and then Greg immediately plays his second copy of Strategic Planning. I have a big dining table, so I can't flip it, but man, just twice in a row, having him tap my Defoliator tank was pretty brutal, right? It was a great play by him. It was an amazing play by him, but it was brutal for me. And I ended up losing the game. He ended up just piecing together enough vehicles and kind of running over my droids at that point, because I lost the big swing. Something in hindsight, I think I'm going to pull out. I have like a couple of those carbine weapons. I think I'm going to pull at least one of those out, and I have 1 copy of Triple Laser Turret. I think I'm going to put in, because I think outside of Strategic Planning, if I get my big vehicle down, whether it be Defoliator tank or the Hellfire Droid tank, and I can start modding it up, I think that's just a pretty scary thing for an opponent to deal with. And so, yeah, I think that is my plan. I like this deck a lot. I like vehicles, so I like being able to guarantee or near guarantee getting out one of those big vehicles. I like the droids. I like the synergy between the 3 droids. I like Sentinel Messenger and kind of cheating with getting a 6 card every turn. It's fun. I like it. I will continue playing it, and at some point, Greg and I are going to play our 2 droid decks against one another. But it wasn't this time. So we switched decks after being 1-1, and he ran his Grievous. So his Grievous is single die Grievous, and then 2 Commando droids, and then Sentinel Messenger, which he pulled at our draft event or a sealed event. So he had a 4-wide deck. I ran Palp Dengar. So I ran single die Palp because that's all I have. I have Elite Dengar. That takes me to 28. I also ran a plot. I ran Lightsaber Mastery. And so underneath that, I held a Deflecting Slash, and I held a Fatal Blow. So Fatal Blow, resolve one of your character dice showing damage, increasing its value by the number of upgrades on that character. So the goal there is to hopefully, Palp and just kind of explode with the number of upgrades you can get on Palp. I was never able to play that card. It cost 2, and I wasn't in a position. And the biggest reason why I wasn't in a position is because I have 1 Palp die, and Greg would often mitigate that die, right? He would keep it off of focus. He would keep it off of damage. And that was really frustrating. Smart play by Greg, but it was just like, I can't use my cool toys because he never allowed me to take advantage of the situation. I will say we played 3 games. I lost all 3, but the first game I felt really good about. And at one point towards the end, I had 8 abilities on Palpatine and his lightsaber. So he had 18 health based on those abilities. And it was awesome, right? To be able to shake up and roll 10 dice into the pool is an amazing feeling. However, a lot of those are just like cheesy little abilities that aren't weapons, right? So they do some things, but for the most part, they're not dealing a whole lot of damage, or at least not directly. And so just like at the sealed box tournament, I thought it was kind of a lose slower kind of strategy. But I rolled a funny story about that game. That first game we played where I had so many upgrades, I'd actually killed off all but 1 character. I forget. I think it may have been the Sentinel Messenger was still alive. Probably not. I probably killed the Sentinel Messenger, I want to believe. But Greg was running Arena of Death as his battlefield, and he won the roll-off. And that came back to bite me big, really big at the end, because I had Palpatine. He had 15 damage on him, but he had 18 health thanks to the abilities. So we started a turn. Greg minorly misplayed by actually doing something, playing a card or rolling in, and then I roll in Palpatine, and then Greg's like, oh yeah, wait, claim. And since he had 3 defeated characters, I had to absorb 3 indirect damage, and that was the game. So Arena of Death can sneak up on you for sure. Again, masterful play by Greg. It was fun to have that many dice in the pool, but I just couldn't deal with it. The second game, I probably should have scooped earlier than I did. It just didn't go my way. Dengar has damage sides, but too often they're just like 1 or 2. And I had some bounties, and bounties are okay, but by the time you kill a character, you get more money, and you're like, well, what am I going to do with that? So it wasn't as great as I hoped it would, and especially against a 4-wide deck with 31 health. You choose a character, throw some bounties on them, and then it's just difficult. Yeah, and the third game I lost again. I made a mistake. One of those games I put, like my very first round, I pulled Dooku's lightsaber, and since Palpatine's a Sith, I get that ability from playing it on a Sith. But, I think I just need Palp's lightsaber and that's it, and all abilities. I don't think you need another weapon that doesn't get you any other advantage, doesn't increase your health like an ability, and it doesn't give you the rebate that Palp's lightsaber will. So that was just kind of a waste of two money on my end. So I would definitely take that out. But I lost all 3, so if you're scoring from home, I won the first game riding high, and then I lost 4 straight, thanks to Greg's good playing. Right, he played really well. I had a fun deck. I think we will match our 2 droid decks against one another. I think that'll be super super fun. All kinds of indirect and range damage going around. But Palpatine is not to be. I think if I really want to play Palpatine, and I know there are some Palpatine players out there that are listening. Maybe you agree, but I think I really need 2 Palpatine dice, right? I think I need to run Elite Palpatine. My other option for single die Palpatine would have been Palpatine and 2 Executioners, and that would get me to 30 and allow me to run red instead of yellow like I did with Dengar. But I still think with only 1 Palpatine die, it's just too easy to mitigate that, and there's so much power from having multiple dice on that character. So I don't know. I mean, maybe, again, I'm not one to go out and buy a $20-something card, but maybe I'll pull one. Maybe there's one in this box. I get first pick. I don't know if I would take a second Palpatine die over a Mega Blaster Troopers, but Or maybe I'll trade for one, right? I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's what I would need. So Elite Palpatine could be a thing. And that's really kind of all I want to talk about. That's what I've been playing. I think Greg and I are going to try to get together soon to finish that box, and I'll have a report and let you know what all 6 legendaries we pulled. I have my Convergence poll. Greg is helping me sort through the data, clean up the data, and so I will report on that hopefully in the coming weeks. Just fascinating to see, like, what the distribution of those 17 legendaries are and whatnot. All right, well, speaking of legendaries, right here, I have a Convergence pack, and maybe there's one inside. Probably not. I'd say no, but you never know. It could be. This pack of Star Wars Destiny Convergence comes to us from Kingwood Hobbies, so thank you, Trey, for donating this pack. Trey, you can find him at kingwoodhobbies.com. He's doing a lot of regular writing for the Outer Rim Smugglers and their Outer Rim Gaming website, so you can follow along with what Trey has to say about building decks. And, he's a great competitive player. He's also a great host for events and things like the Solidarity Tournament. So shout out to Trey once again. Thank you for this. Let's crack this open and see what we get. All right. It is a blue dice, and I'm happy to report it is a card I do not have. Here we go. Starting from the back, it is Lor Santeca. It is a blue character. It is a hero. He is a character and a scavenger. He has 10 health. His die reads 1 focus, 2 focus, 1 discard, 1 shield, 1 resource, and a blank. He has a power action. Choose 3 cards from your discard pile. Then an opponent adds 1 of those cards to your hand. Set the other 2 cards aside. So his point value is 9 for single die and 11 for elite. I'm super excited by this because I don't have any, and I know a lot of people are giving Lor Santeca some love in competitive decks, hero side, hero mill, and other things. Yes, his power action seems really, really awesome because you can kind of recycle some cards that you've played, some events. Seems super strong. Super excited about this pool, so that's great. Let's move on to the uncommon. The uncommon is Protective Suit. It is a gray upgrade equipment. It is neutral. It costs 1. Non-bounty upgrades cannot be played on attached character. Action, return this upgrade from play to your hand. So Protective Suit is something that if you're really worried about people playing Mind Extraction on Palpatine, you could play this and protect him because non-bounty downgrades cannot be played on the attached character. So super situational. I don't think it belongs in a deck unless you really know that you're getting into or you're going up against someone who's kind of downgrade heavy. What are the commons? The first common up is Prey Upon. It is 1 cost. It is a yellow event. Choose a character that has a downgrade on it and remove one of its character or upgrade dice. And again, that's the Dengar card. Don't move another inch is the quote from Dengar as he is pressuring some innocent civilian. Prey Upon. Great for it's great for a bounty deck for sure. So if I'm going to continue with Dengar, I'm probably going to have a playset of both of these in there. Next up is Shock Collar, the hero from my last game against Greg in the sealed tournament. Really, it's not a card that you would probably put in a lot of constructed decks, but it came up big for me at the most perfect time. It is a 2-cost gray neutral downgrade equipment. After attached character is activated, deal 1 damage to it. So, sorry, Greg, but you got Shock Collared. And lastly, Truce. Can never have enough Truce. It is a 0-cost yellow event. It has Ambush, so after you play this card, gain 1 action. Each player gains 1 resource. So I like the new art. It has Jabba and Ahsoka and Baby Jabba, being handed off. So if you've seen the Clone Wars movie, that will make sense to you. If you have not, it means nothing. But there you go. To recap, a character, Lor Santeca, is our rare. Protective Suit is a very situational uncommon. And then we got 2 yellow neutral events, Truce and Prey Upon, and Shock Collar, a gray neutral downgrade. So there you have it. Another pack. That's 14 packs we've opened as part of the show. It's always fun just to crack one open and see what's inside and kind of discuss what you can do with them. So, man, Lor Santeca, yeah, I'm excited. All right, it's about time to wind down. I want to mention a few things. So, I really enjoy creating content for Star Wars Destiny, and I like Jank It Up Fuzzball. And as I ease into the summer, which is usually a lot less busy for me in terms of my 9 to 5 job. I'm going to try to be more involved in the community in terms of increasing my Facebook presence, Instagram, trying to get back into that, and on Twitter. So look for me there on Twitter again. It's Jank It Up. On Instagram, it's Jank It Up Fuzzball. And on Facebook, if you search for Jank It Up Fuzzball, you will find us there. Please, if you're not already following in any of those areas, then you're on those social medias, please consider giving me a like or a follow. That way you can keep up with content that gets dispersed in between podcast episodes and things like that. Also, my plan, some of you know I'm an artist, and so I've made a series of alt art cards throughout the last year or so. I'm going to update those, make sure they're completely current with the holocron, and then I'm going to offer them up as a means of offsetting some costs with the podcast. No one gets into content creation to make money. Like, that's not why people do it, obviously. But things like Patreon and other avenues of support help offset costs. And that's something that I'm looking to do. You know, I really do enjoy this, but there is a cost associated with hosting the podcast. For instance, I'm happy to donate my time, and I have my own, website space for the website, which is great. But there is a fixed cost associated with having a podcast, and I just try to make it as close to a zero-sum game as possible. So probably in June, I'm going to be offering alt art cards, and if you're a fan of the alt art or you'd like to purchase some or donate in exchange for some, that would be appreciated. One more thing, if you are a fan of the podcast and you're a fan of free money, I have one last opportunity that you can support Jank It Up Fuzzball, or you can at least support this endeavor and also get some money back. And it's kind of it's an affiliate link that I'm going to talk through. I'm going to post it on show notes and on the website, but it's ebates.com. I don't know if you're familiar with Ebates. It's like rebates, but without the R. But you shop online. If you do a lot of online shopping, a lot of the vendors or stores will give you a percentage of money back. Now, we're not talking about store credit. We're talking about actual money back. And I'd heard about them for a while, but I decided to take the plunge because they were offering new members $10 back on your first $25 purchase. And how this ties into Destiny, for me, is very real, because one of the vendors is eBay. And at the time of Convergence dropped, I wanted to get the starter sets. I wanted 2 General Grievous starter sets. So on eBay, a retailer was selling them for, I think, like $14 in free shipping. And through Ebates, through signing up for Ebates and then shopping through Ebates to eBay, it's a lot of ease in that sentence. Basically, once you make your first purchase of $25 or more, then Ebates gives you $10 cash back. And so when I bought my 2 Grievous starter sets on eBay, with the vendor had free shipping, so that was exciting. So I think I paid $27, $28, and then a few days later, Ebates put $10 in my PayPal account, right? And that's money I can spend on anything I want, right? So it's not store credit, it's cash back. And so that cut my Grievous starter decks down to where they were less than $10 a piece, which is super, super exciting. So as an opportunity, if you're interested in that, if that sounds good to you, if next time Spark of Hope comes out and you shop on things like eBay, or you shop Target, or you shop at even Amazon, Ebates is a way where you can get incremental cash back. But your first purchase of $25 or more, you will get $10 back. So that's 40%, assuming you meet that $25, 40% back, which is a pretty good deal. I used it to get Destiny content because, again, I try to be a relatively budget shopper. As I mentioned before, I don't go out and buy expensive cards themselves, but I will buy a sealed product because that's where the fun is for me. But yeah, so Ebates allowed me to do that. Now I bring this up now because if you want to try Ebates and you go through a link I'm about to talk about, then I'm going to get some money back. And I'm going to get a little bit of something which will go directly into paying off some of the hosting expenses for Jank It Up Fuzzball. So how cool is that? You would get $10, assuming you make a $25 purchase, and then I would get some money based on you being referred through me. So if it sounds like something you are interested in, and again, I'm not suggesting you go out and spend money to spend money, because that's definitely not what I do. But it is nice. Ebates is nice because I have a plugin on my browser. And so if I am shopping, then it recognizes that I can get 1% or 2% back at everyday stuff like Target or Walmart or eBay or even SiriusXM, whatever it is, I can get money back that I used to not get money back, right? So it's free money. It's there for the taking, and it adds up over time. If that's interesting to you, please give it a try, but sign up using the following address, right? So it's ebates.com. So that's E and then bates.com /R/BPiana. That's B as in Brian and then Piana, Piana. That'll be a referral link for me. And so for any reason, if any of you out there go through and you sign up for Ebates and you make a qualifying $25 purchase, you're going to get $10 back. And then I'm going to get enough money to pay for 2 months of podcast hosting, which again helps offset the cost. Just something to throw out there. But if you like free money, especially on a game like this that costs money, collectible card game, you can save $10, right? So if you want to wait until the summertime and you want to use that on eBay to get a Spark of Hope box, and you still remember to sign up through my link, then you're going to help me out down the road, and I would appreciate it. That's it. I know a sales pitch to end the episode. I'm sorry, but rather than slam it in the middle or slam it in the front, I decided to just wait till the end. We are done with episode 14. Again, I love this game. I love building crazy decks. I love, even when I go 1-4 against Greg, I love playing Star Wars Destiny. If you're listening to this, I'm assuming you do too. And that's it. Let's go have some fun. Play some jank, roll some dice, have some fun. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.